we go on the Monday edition, Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber Law Offices. One Call That's All studio at the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. Excited to welcome back Joshy DiMaggio, who's thankfully not dead.
It's touch and go there for a bit.
Yeah, you still don't sound great.
No, I'm not fully back. I'd say I'm 90%. Still got a little cough, sore throat, but the fever's gone.
That's good.
The body aches are gone.
That's good.
So we're on the mend. Good.
Well, I'm glad you're back because I need to get your opinion on about 18 things, which we will get to throughout the course of the next hour. So good to have you back. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Tiny Hands Hunter Vaughn back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. No well wishes or welcome backs for him. He was here all of last week. So
yeah,
Hunter
I was here doing my job, grinding.
He's already picking a bone with Joshy, and we are 14 seconds into the show. I think the last time you two spoke, it ended in screaming at each other.
Because he was wrong about the halftime show.
I think it was about the halftime show. And then we were talking about like the Super Bowl score bug, I believe, was brought up at one point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good to have you
I bet
guys.
we agree on the puck that happened this weekend, right, Hunter?
Puck?
Yeah. It was awesome.
The Four Nations.
Yeah. People need to understand why that was great, and they don't. And it's ridiculous.
Well, hold on. I guess, hold on. Let's. We're going to get to the NBA All-Star Game in just a moment anyway, so hold on. So the Four Nations, obviously, is the four countries, Finland, Sweden, Canada, the United States. During the NHL All-Star break, it's country versus country, kind of a quasi-tournament style, right? So go on. People don't understand why to like it, you said?
Well, everyone's like, oh, it's so great, but they don't understand that, like, it isn't just that the players care. It's the fact that the way that hockey is set up internationally, the youth hockey, like the U17 World Cup stuff, like I showed on a while back that they use their goal song as Freebird. Like, as teenagers, these guys in the U.S. and Canada are playing each other for youth World Cups. Like, these rivalries go back years for these players. And then
it's not only the fact that the players care, unlike the NBA All-Star Game.
Correct.
It is that there was bitter rivalries, which obviously we saw 5 fights in 9 seconds in that US Canada game?
Yep.
Was it 3 fights in 5 seconds? Okay.
Yeah. I was going to give him the 5.
Hockey's just different. It's the program, the way it comes up, the way kids are. They compete in these national levels. They do for their whole lives. I mean, there's brothers on the same team that are fighting other players. Honestly, Canada's probably suffering because their expansiveness of their youth programs. Like, those kids go to CHL and they don't really all maintain the same thing. They kind of separate a little bit. Like, the U.S. is benefiting from those guys all know each other, and they have for 10, 15 years in some cases.
Yeah,
and it's awesome.
Yeah, this U.S. team and like this Canada team are basically the teams you're going to see in the Olympics. So like these guys play internationally when it comes time for that together too. And they've seen each other multiple times. This isn't just some cobbled together group of superstars that are playing each other. Like, these are legitimately cohesive teams that are working together regularly throughout their careers.
We're going to cover a lot of ground today. Uh-huh. I didn't have hockey on the bingo card.
You know what's awesome, and my takeaway also from it, and it applies to the Super Bowl? Hockey and football still have in them where physicality is the biggest determination. Like, the U.S. hockey team wants to hit you all over a million times, and that's what the Eagles want to do. They want to just beat you down.
So the Eagles are the U.S. hockey team?
In a way, yes.
Who's Finland?
There's still something pure happening in those sports where pure physicality and aggressiveness is how you win, whereas in baseball and basketball, it's turned more into a numbers game.
So what I'm hearing is Joshy, who spent the last week on his deathbed, has determined that physicality is the key to life and the key to success in life.
It's the key to making really awesome sports.
Okay. All right. Well, good stuff. All right, good job, guys. Glad you got your hockey takes out. That's very good. Let's go to the NBA All-Star Game and All-Star Weekend.
You can take this.
I got it. I mean, it sucked. I mean, we can just call it what it is, right? Call a sheep a sheep.
Yes,
Wasn't a very good weekend. Mac McClung, fun dunker, has played in one NBA game this year. Has 0 points in the NBA. He's a G League guy. That's not going to make me turn on the TV, despite the fact he made history by winning his third straight dunk contest. Looking at the 3-point contest, it was what it was, right? Congrats to local guy, Tyler Hero, but meh.
Tyler doesn't want you to know he's from Wisconsin.
That's true. And then, you look at the All-Star game and they try this new format and doesn't really deliver. LeBron announces at the final minute, the 11th hour, hey, by the way, I'm not playing tonight. Okay, LeBron, thanks, man. Awesome stuff. So, all in all, it was just bad. I mean, can you go world versus U.S. format? Maybe you'll draw a couple more eyes that way. I heard the idea pitched of doing a one-on-one tournament like they did with some of the WNBA stars on Rivaled last week. It's fun. They'll never do it.
No. People want to watch sports.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in all bad. I mean, it was not the savior that they intended it to be. So, what do you do? What do you do? Giannis is attempting, despite not playing this weekend, he at least attempted to inject some juice into next year already by tweeting Saturday night, Ja Morant, if you're part of the dunk contest, I'll be part of the dunk contest. But then Giannis is asked about the tweet, and he has this to say, kind of backing off the opinion of, yeah, I'll do the dunk contest. Here's Giannis Saturday night.
How serious are you about doing the dunk contest, and why would you?
I got hacked last night. While I was sleeping,
Impressive.
they woke up in the middle of the night. They came next to the nightstand, took my phone out of my charger, went to their room, tweeted, and I found out this morning. That wasn't me. That was my kids tweeting. That wasn't me.
Okay, so Giannis tweets that he'd do it if Ja Morant does it, and then he backs off of it by saying, in very Giannis fashion, he's a lovely human, but blames the kids, says, yeah, I didn't tweet that. I was hacked. Funny storyteller. But there you go. Like, even the players don't give a damn. And that's the thing that makes it not worth it. Like, I'm almost to a point in good on the NHL, because I was going to say all of professional sports, and maybe I'll back off on this one given how much buzz the Four Nations tournament is getting. But we could probably just do away with All-Star games. I get it's a festivity for the host cities, and obviously it's revenue generating for the host cities and the leagues, so they'll never get rid of it. But if you can't make your players care, why should I care? Right? When it comes to an all-star format, it should be about your fans. You want your fans to give a damn. And the NBA has completely lost light of that. I watched SNL 50. I didn't watch a lick of the NBA All-Star games last night until after the fact. I watched the rerun at about 11 o'clock. And I turned it off because I just wasn't interested. A couple weeks ago, we talked about the Pro Bowl games. I appreciate that they're trying new things, but what's it doing for me as a fan watching Xavier McKinney and Rashawn Gary play the newlywed game? Like, what's that doing for me? Maybe giving me a chuckle for 14 seconds. It's not entertaining me, right? It is as simple as this for sports fans. Entertain me. And we are missing the mark on that big time in just about all of professional sports. The MLB All-Star Game was the last one where it was like, yeah, there's something to play for. And then they eliminated the idea of home field advantage in the World Series. When that was still the case, players cared more. And I get you got to manage the pitchers, and it's hard when you do it in the middle of the season, which the NBA, NHL, and MLB all do. But this should be about your fans way more so than it should be the dollar. You need your players to buy in, and you want your fans to buy in. And neither of those things are happening anymore. Fans aren't buying in, players aren't buying in. And that's why the NBA missed the mark this weekend. And it was disappointing because I actually, despite the fact it was like $3 billion to $3 billion in last year's All-Star game, it was still at least a little entertaining.
No.
Yeah, I remember, I think you and I disagreed on this last year.
The NBA is, and its players are the least interested in servicing the fans. Going out there and putting on a good event for the wellness of the league and of the people who pay to watch you is of next to no concern. You can hardly get these guys to play in the regular season, so getting them to play and put any effort into an all-star game is going to fail. There's been a complete reorganization. The player empowerment era has taken over to a degree that it is almost as if it's inhumane to expect your stars to consistently play. You're
right, though.
It is as if, hey, this would be an awesome game in the regular season, and we're going to punt on it because we want to make sure they're healthy for the playoffs. It's unsustainable. It's uninteresting. You could see it in the ratings. People are leaving, saying, why would I watch this if no one here cares to be here?
Correct. I mean, that's the moral of the story. So
it's like against their will.
Yeah, but
it's like Anthony Rendon has taken over and is now most of the NBA. It's a job. There's no passion.
Right. It's what do we earn by doing it? Right. And that's it. And that's leaked into the regular season to a point, right? Like, you view some of these superstars, they finally had to implement a 65-game minimum for postseason awards. You can't win the MVP or be a first-team All-NBA selection unless you play 65 games.
And then they blamed it on Joel Embiid's injury on it and went up into arms that we would expect him to play.
Right. So what do you do? So, I mean, we could sit here all day and pitch ideas that would make it more interesting and make fans more interested. I'm not interested in that, to be real honest with you. It's not my job. My job is to watch it and tell you how much it sucked. And it sucked, it did. So that's that. I mean, that's really all I've got on the NBA All-Star Game.
What's so weird is that I've seen a few different times of like reporters who cover the NBA regularly talk about how these guys will play pickup games in the offseason against each other and go really hard. Like, they will go at game speed against each other, and they don't hurt each other. Like, they understand, like, okay, I'm going to let this guy go by after a certain point here to not hurt myself, but still have a competitive pickup game at some random guy's gym. And yet they get to the All-Star game, and they're like, nope, can't do that. We just got to shoot up a bunch of threes and just be ridiculous and can't actually have a semi-competitive game. Like, that's what bothers me so much with this. Is like, we know they're capable of doing a better job as the players, but yet they refuse to do it.
All right. I mean, like we just said, it's what do they earn by doing it? Right? And Josh's use of the term inhumane.
Yeah. That's what it feels like.
That's how it's treated. You're right.
Yes. Like a back-to-back is somehow the craziest thing you've ever asked an athlete to do.
Let's just say this. We're 8 days out of the NFL season. God, I miss football. Oh, my goodness. I mean, it is blatantly clear 8 days removed how much we need it. And look, the college basketball is in a really fun spot. New AP poll just dropped. We'll get to the Badgers in a bit, who had a huge weekend, huge win on the road on Saturday, a huge weekend for them. As we are now less than 4 weeks away from Selection Sunday, we're in the fun part of college basketball. And frankly, I'm more of a college basketball fan than I am an NBA fan. So that's just what tickles my fancy, if you will. We're going to get to a fun part of the NBA season. But with the NBA, as it has been the last probably half decade or so, it's a really slow burn to get to game 75 when seeding begins to matter. And the play-in tournament has been a fun addition to the NBA postseason. But it's a slow burn. I mean, it's not until mid-April where you really start caring about the NBA, other than, like, for me, I'll watch Bucks games. But outside of the Bucks, I'm not watching a ton.
It's because the NBA seemingly can't have what Badgers and Purdue was this weekend. Big regular season game with stakes that everyone shows up to and everyone shows out for. If this was the NBA and that was the Bucks, Giannis and Dame would sit and they would lose by 40 and we'd move on to the next game.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Oh, well. All right, let's get into the Green Bay Packers. Packers offseason is officially here. Good to have Joshy back for this because I think we're going to do this for a couple position groups the next few weeks. So Bill Barnwell over on ESPN.com releasing an article titled 2025 NFL Offseason, 17 wide receivers available in free agency or trades. So he breaks them down into categories of trade candidates, players that will likely be cut and become free agent options, and then the overall, guys that their deals are up, right? So free agent options in the NFL offseason. I want to run through a couple of names that caught my eye while reading this article by Bill Barnwell over on ESPN.com, ESPN Plus. And I've reached a conclusion by going through these names. I'd rather go through them first and then get to my conclusion. I think. Or Joshy, would you rather me give you your conclusion, then we run my conclusion, we run through the names and see if my conclusion is correct?
I have no idea what you're getting at here. Would it be better if we guessed your conclusion after you run through the names? I don't know.
All right. Came back ready to work, just like the NBA players.
Just do the show. Please.
Yeah, I got you. All right, cut candidates. Davante Adams, obviously, right? That's a name we've talked plenty about when it comes to the Green Bay Packers. Other cut candidates, Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks, Christian Kirk of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Either of those guys make you go, yeah, go get them.
Between Davante and Tyler Lockett?
No, Tyler Lockett and Christian Kirk.
Oh. Kirk, I wouldn't be disappointed by.
Okay.
I wouldn't be excited either.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. Same with Lockett, right? Like he's definitely on the...
He's just old.
Yeah, he's old and not fast anymore.
Yeah.
So, what do you do there? I skipped the trade category because that was the Debos, the Cooper Kupps, the Tyreek Hills.
Yeah.
Those guys aren't coming to Green Bay.
No.
Let's just acknowledge that from the get-go. And then here are your free agent options that we really haven't talked about. Hollywood Brown of the Chiefs, Amari Cooper of the Bills, Stephon Diggs of the Texans, Chris Godwin of the Buccaneers. Like, you could take a swing on a Brown or a Cooper or a Diggs and say, hey, this is your number one veteran receiver now.
I think but does Godwin hits that, if anyone, to me.
I just worry he's been so beat up.
They usually are if they're in free agency.
That's true. And it just doesn't feel like a guy who's had two big injuries in the last 3 years where Brian Gutekunst would go, yeah, that's my guy, right? Like that one, as much as I like him as a player, I think he's only 29. He's still on the younger side of some of these guys. He's not a guy that really makes me go, yeah, now the Packers are in Super Bowl business. The conclusion I've reached by ciphering through this article and reading some of these names, which we can dive a bit more into in just a moment.
Davante or bust?
Bingo.
God, I'm good.
It's Davante Adams or bust for the Packers this offseason. And when we now let's focus on the second half of that, right? It's Davante Adams or bust, meaning they don't do anything. They trot out Jayden Reed, Dontayvion Wicks, Romeo Doubs, week 1, and just say, all right, let's run it back. Let's see if one of these guys can take that next step. I don't know that happens. But if you add, say, a Christian Kirk to the mix, how much more confident are you feeling in this wide receiver group week 1? Is that needle moved even a tiny bit? I don't know if it is. Like, don't get me wrong. Christian Kirk is more of a proven option than, say, Dontayvion Wicks or Romeo Doubs. But I don't know if that's a total needle mover for that makes me go from, oh, yeah, they fixed that problem. Right? I'm not saying, oh, yeah, remember how we said they needed a number one receiver? Well, they signed Christian Kirk, baby. They're good to go. I like Christian Kirk. And I think he could provide some nice things to this Packers offense. But it's Davante or bust at this point, reading through some of these names. And I left off a bunch of names because it's like, Josh Palmer, Josh DiMaggio. Is Josh Palmer going to make you go, woohoo?
No. It'll make me worry about Brian Gutekunst's decision-making.
Well, it's good that you're not already worried, other than maybe when it comes to the first round of the NFL draft.
I think it's important to break down both what the Packers need and acknowledge the fact that pretty much any of these options, save for T. Higgins, which I think we all here on the cast would think is pretty unlikely of an option, they're all stopgaps. They're all short-term answers to what you hope to be a long-term improved position.
Right.
Davante Adams would be great to move into that position and just immediately provide the first option, the go-to guy. You could argue Hollywood Brown would be the vertical threat that they're going to be missing greatly without Christian Watson. they don't really have a guy who can push the field down without Christian Watson on the field. And then, like, if you wanted to say Chris Godwin, he would also be sort of what they wanted Romeo Doubs to be, the third down, reliable, we need 5 yards, which receiver can we rely on? But the real thing is they have to also get better in the draft. They have to bring in young talent that is controlled and young talent that can improve steadily with the rest of the group. We tried it. The combination of 3-4 guys they got right now wasn't the right one. They didn't have a guy pop to a degree they needed, and they don't complement each other in a good enough way that it makes Jordan Love look better or he makes them look better.
Yeah, you know what made me sad while researching for this and reading into this article a little bit was I found an article from last July written by Rob Domofsky on ESPN.com, and it was titled, "Can Jayden Reed turn into the Packers WR1 this season?" And it was all about how Jair Alexander was just raving about him at the beginning part of training camp, about how good he is, about how he's, in better shape than he was a year ago, about how much of a dog he is, which I believe he still has those qualities. I still think Jayden Reed can be a really good wide receiver in the NFL. But he / the group around him certainly did not take a step in the right direction last year. They stayed pretty stagnant, right? They kind of plateaued. And that is fine, but now you need to find a solution, right? And that's not to say Jayden Reed will never improve, right? Because I do think he's going to develop into a really good wide receiver, but he's still young. He's only entering year 3. But this is an offense that is geared up for what should be championship expectations. You have a $55 million quarterback. You have one of the best running backs in the league in Josh Jacobs. You seemingly have a pretty good tight end group, right? That's the one group that really made a jump on this offense this past season, specifically around Tucker Kraft. You feel good in those spots. Offensive line, you're going to figure out. Packers always do. Now, what happens with the receivers? What happens with some of those skill position players to take this offense to the next level? Now, again, I believe Reed and Wicks and Doubs can certainly take a step, but can they develop into a bona fide problem for opposing defenses? That's a different conversation. What we know about a guy like Davante Adams, where I kind of view it as, well, when it comes to some of these options externally, right, free agents or trade options, Davante Adams is far and away the one that makes the most sense, and really the only one that makes a ton of sense for Green Bay. So you got to bring back Davante, as Chef Ed chimes in. Come on, Goody, BBD, bring back Davante. BBD, Chef Ed, I hear you. So that's what I came to. I mean, so just to go back through some of these names, Joshy, just stop me if it's one you are open to the idea of. Okay, so cut candidates. They need to be cut from their current teams before they become free agent. Tyler Lockett, seemed pretty clear you weren't into that idea. Christian Kirk, you were open to it. Hasn't stopped me yet. Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
Is that a stopping me, or is that a he doesn't move the needle for you?
I mean, what kind of needle moving are we talking about here? Because
when we talk needle moving, I guess I would say he comes in and you automatically go, yep, that's the number one.
No.
What about Amari Cooper?
No.
Stephon Diggs?
No.
Chris Godwin? I mean,
that's a halfway answer to me for Chris Godwin.
He just seems like such the opposite Goody, though. The oppo Goody.
Does Chris Godwin, though, give you the ability, if you're the Packers, to have a Christian Watson, like, stretch the field, and then Godwin is Christian Watson light? So you just hope that throughout the course of the season, you have one of those two healthy for every game? And then your offense kind of has that same piece, just a different guy every week?
Yeah, I don't think you're signing somebody and saying, hey, you're Christian Watson's replacement until week 11, I'm open to that one. I'm open to a few of these. Like, I'm open to Christian Kirk. I'm open to Chris Godwin. That's about it, though, other than Davante. Like, it just seems pretty clear to me that if Goody's interested in it, which We do not know that for a fact, by the way. Had a good conversation with Wilde yesterday on Sunday Karma, where he said, yeah, I haven't texted Goody yet to see if he would maybe be interested in that reunion. I said, hey, Jason, what are you waiting for, man? Send that text yesterday. So maybe we'll find out this week if Goody really is open to it. Because that's the big piece here, right? Devontae's clearly open to it. The guys in the locker room seemingly are open to it. Jordan Love is open to it. It all comes down to that GM, Brian Gutekunst, and what it will take, obviously, to get a guy like Davante Adams. If he's just a straight-up free agent, he's going to be expensive but affordable. And, obviously when you trade a guy, it's not often a couple of years later you're signing him off the open market. So we will see. But the point I've reached with this wide receiver class is I think it's Davante or bust. And Joshy reading between the tea leaves and seemingly agreeing with me. I mean, T. Higgins obviously would be great, but I've kind of ruled that one out too. They're not paying that much for T. Higgins when they're going to have Doubs and Watson to make decisions on next offseason and Reed and Wicks to make decisions on the following offseason. It just doesn't seem realistic to me to sign what will clearly be the highest paid wide receiver in this free agent class, but also potentially one of the highest paid wide receivers in all of football in T. Higgins. So I've kind of ruled that one out at this point. I just don't think it's realistic.
Yeah, it's not.
Right?
Packers are never going to pay top market.
No.
Especially if it's not homegrown.
Correct.
Now, Zach Tom, you could argue they'll probably be quite happy to pay him a lot of money.
Yeah, especially when you've got Will Anderson making the rounds on Radio Row saying he's the best offensive lineman he faced all year. That's pretty high praise from a pretty good defensive player out there in Houston. So we will see, but I've been thinking, Joshy, I don't know if you're this way. I might have a problem, man. I think way too much about how the Packers are going to handle the offseason. It is all I think about.
Well, it's because it's endlessly fascinating.
It is, because the number one, they're pretty unpredictable, right? Like, had I told you a year ago at this time, Brian Gutekunst is going to go get one of the best running backs and the best safety in free agency this go around. You're like, no, he's not. What do you mean? No, he's not. That's not what he does. But then, I could have said, Goody's going to stand pat this offseason. You'd say, yeah, that makes sense, right? I really don't know how to predict him is the hard part. And when you have, it seems to me like three clear positions of need this offseason. Wide receiver, edge, and cornerback. You only have so many draft picks, and you only have so many guys you view as, guys that can come in and be day one contributors. Specifically at some of those positions, right? It's hard to do. You could do it at corner. Right? We saw Quinyon Mitchell do it this year. We've seen, Christian Gonzalez in New England was a mid-round pick. He came in and was really solid for them right away his rookie year. Tariq Woolen in Seattle was good his rookie year as a corner. It's possible. But it's not super common, but it's possible. Edge, kind of same thing, right? Like you can nitpick, pick and choose some of the names that have been drafted over the years, but look at a guy like Lucas Van Ness. He was the 13th overall pick to Green Bay a couple of years ago, and now through 2 years, he's barely, if at all, been able to contribute defensively and be the game wrecker that you hope an early first-round pick is. So the draft isn't really a perfect place to go, yep, that's how we'll fill that position in need. Right? We're going to fix our getting after the quarterback problem by spending a first-round pick on an edge rusher. I don't know that tells me that solves it. It's easier to say, okay, they probably solved that when you go and get a proven commodity. But, I mean, you can't sit here and just imagine and hope and pray that, okay, they're going to go sign Davante Adams, trade for Max Crosby, and sign a top corner in free agency. That's not going to happen. But when you have three real positions of need, and this is still a good football team on paper, but you have some clear holes, I can't figure out how, why, or which way they're going to solve some of these issues. One of them is going to be addressed specifically through the draft, I would guess. And I'm starting to think that might be corner. Wide receiver, they might not address at all. And edge, they might just sign a guy you've never heard of, like they did with Za'Darius Smith back in 2019. That could ultimately be what happens, and we could all walk into training camp going, well, I have no idea what the hell this team's going to look like. You feel pretty good about some things. Linebacker room, you feel good about. If Jordan Love can stay healthy, you feel good about him. But there is not a perfect, solution to these multiple problems the Packers clearly have. And to be real frank with you, I don't really know how they're going to approach this or how Goody feels about all of it. And maybe we'll get some insight prior to the new league year before he heads down to Indianapolis in a couple of weeks for the scouting combine at the end of the month. But man, I am puzzled at how they handle these three. Devontae seems like the layup solution at wide receiver. Because if he gets onto the open market, Green Bay is obviously a very appealing location for him. I really don't think they're going to trade for an edge rusher. As much as I'd love to see them say, hey, Vegas, take whatever you need for Max Crosby. We'll take him. And then corner, maybe you figure out through the draft. And as many people have pointed out, whether it's on the YouTube chat, on the text line, wherever, if you can get after the quarterback, you're going to make your corners look better. But do we feel really comfortable about Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine being your two really only options as it stands right now at corner? Yeah. I'd like a little bit bigger of a name back there, to be real honest with you. So I'm puzzled, Joshy. That's where I'm at.
I mean, I'm not puzzled.
Uh-oh. You've got all the answers.
Well, it's quite simple. Do you believe this core is going to be Super Bowl worthy? If the answer is yes, you move heaven and earth. You make trades, you use free agency, you sign people. If you don't, and you believe in a stasis, then you sort of half-ass it, find yourself a Hollywood Brown, sign Azeez Ojulari, and go, well, hopefully the guys we have get better.
Did you just want to say that name?
No. I'm just thinking of a guy who would be like, whatever.
Yeah.
He's another body. He'll help on third down 4 times this year. Great. If you believe the Packers should be, with their massive investment in Jordan Love and in getting the team young and the contracts to a healthy point and the cap to a healthy point, then there's no reason not to use every avenue to make yourself one of the teams that you would consider good enough to go out and beat the Eagles. Mm-hmm. The Eagles beat you twice.
Yeah.
Unless you go out and try to get better, just using the draft as team building is not sufficient enough. I don't think Rob writing about Goody's 3 and 5 year plan, I don't think anywhere in that plan Goody thought, I'm going to get every pick right and not have to worry about improving the team elsewhere. I don't think that's part of approach. And I think you would have to ignore reality to think that those people in that building who've taken over since Goody got there don't feel immense pressure to make a Super Bowl. I don't think they have saved the Green Bay Packers franchise and moved it forward. I don't think they think the job's done by just making it to the divisional round.
So I agree. I fully agree with everything you just said. And it's well said. But you would agree with me in terms of this isn't a team that really mortgages their future, right? I don't think they're willing to say, hey, we got to go all in for 2025, but that might hamstring us a little bit in 26 and 27. In terms of whatever, draft capital, cap room, etc. And people have had this complaint with the Packers before, and I don't know how fair it is. But, when the Packers lose in the wild card round of the playoffs or the divisional round of the playoffs, fans often say, this is just a team that wants to be in the conversation. It's just a team that is good, not great. But they always want to be good because that keeps them in the conversation, that keeps them in the postseason, that keeps them in the conversation of, almost contenders. I don't agree with that, but that is something in a fair criticism you hear quite a bit about this team is they always are good. With Rodgers, for example, Goody never really went all in. Needed a top target, aside Devontae. Didn't go get one. Could have drafted T. Higgins, ironically. In the first round of the 2020 draft, you drafted Jordan Love instead. Aaron Rodgers goes on 2 MVP streaks, 2 MVP seasons in a row. Has the opportunity to make the NFC Championship game and then ultimately falls in the divisional round the following year to San Francisco. But number 1 seed in the NFC. Like, these are really good teams that just can't get over the hump. So the thing that I worry about, to your point, is will Goody be able to sit down, make the admission of, we're close, we're really close, but what we have on paper just isn't quite good enough. I need to go get a Max Crosby, or I need to go get a dominant edge rusher, or I need to go get a Devontae Adams. Can he sit down and say, we're almost there. It's time to put the pedal to the frickin' floor and go finish the job. Right? Is that within Goody, or is he, oh no, we're really good. This is an 11-win football team, and then once we're in the dance, anything happens type mindset? I don't know the answer. But that's where my head goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's all fair, and I understand the conservative nature and people going, when was the last time they made a trade for one of these players? All well and good.
Malik Willis is the answer.
I also don't think we've seen a Packers team so clearly on the verge of being great, but so clearly deficient at superstars. And that's a big difference. There used to be those guys you'd look around and go, well, we've got Jair, we've got Bakhtiari, we've got Devontae, we've got Aaron Rodgers. We've got these guys in this core here that we need to work in the margins to get better and to elevate the team to push them over the top. The Packers are missing stars. Their depth is amongst some of the better in all of the league. Mm-hmm. They've got plenty of guys at multiple positions where you're going, I mean, I feel good about the second tight end.
Yep.
I feel good about the third safety.
Yep.
I feel good about the second inside linebacker. Mm-hmm. There's the wide receivers are 3-4 deep in terms of pretty good talent, but there's not enough difference makers.
Field tilters, game wreckers, etc. Right.
Right. There's when teams line up against you, they pick out guys who can determine the outcome of games.
Just slow down for a second. So when you say that, what do they have right now? Like when we point at the Packers and say that is a game changer, or that is a dude, that is a bad MFer, whatever you want to call him, right? McKinney's one of them.
Yes.
Is it too soon to say Edgerrin Cooper is one of them?
I think it's probably too soon.
I don't want to do the Jayden Reed thing with Edgerrin Cooper.
But I would tell you, I would bet there's going to be offensive game plans built around Edgerrin Cooper not ruining your game.
Okay, so
because he
certainly on the precipice. Then
he ruined multiple teams' games last season alone.
He did,
and he was a part-time player.
He was part-time.
And then Josh Jacobs is the other one you would say for sure.
What about Love?
I think you game plan for Love and you are worried about it happening. Is he consistent? Can he do it week in and week out?
Yeah.
But it's not like teams are going in and going, well, we can beat this. This quarterback's no good.
Right.
They're just, what version of Jordan are we getting today?
Yeah. And frankly, that's fair. So that's pretty much the end of the list, right? I mean, unless I'm forgetting somebody. Kraft could become one of those guys. Edgerrin Cooper, again, could become one of those guys. An Evan Williams type could become one of those guys. Jayden Reed could become one of those guys. Just not there yet, right? We're not comfortable saying that's a game changer, that's whatever we want to call them, field tilter, game wrecker, whatever. You don't have a lot of them, to your point. There's not enough superstardom on this roster, because when you think back to some of those good Packers teams led by Aaron Rodgers that I was referring to, you had the Aaron Rodgers, the Devontae Adams, the Aaron Jones on offense. Defense, it kind of always lacked them, but like Zadarius Smith had a year there. Obviously.
I mean, let's go back far, though. Charles Woodson, Clay Matthews,
Nick Collins.
Right. Like, there's been guys who have made an absolute. Tremont Williams.
I mean, he was a dog in that postseason. Yeah.
Was as good as any quarterback in the league. There's plenty of guys who have been there. I think Goody has looked around and Matt LaFleur has looked around and said, we wanted you guys to grow. You guys didn't grow enough, and we can't wait around. We're still keeping the light on, still leaving the opportunity for it to happen, but we can't just hope and pray.
Yeah.
We need to acquire.
Boy, I hope that's what Matt is saying to Goody. It's time to acquire, buddy. And I'm not talking via draft. Go out and get somebody. Yeah, we'll see. About 3.5 weeks away from the new league year and free agency opening, and that will ultimately be our telling tale, our what's the word I'm looking for? Our telling sign of what this Packers offseason will be is, what do they do in the first 48 hours of free agency? Is it low risk, high reward signings? Are they taking a big swing? Are they in the mix on a guy like T. Higgins? Then maybe they don't give him the biggest offer. That will tell us what this offseason is to bring. Because then you have about a month and a half after that is the NFL draft, which hopefully you can get some dudes via the draft, but we will see. So hopefully, to your point, LaFleur is going, it is time to acquire. But time will tell.
It just took... Can you remember a Packers team ever like this where it wouldn't require special things to go out and get special players? Like, you could argue in the past, maybe aside from the wide receiver situation post Devontae, but I think the Packers kind of got caught with their ass out on that one.
Agreed.
And then ended up in a, oh God, what do we do?
Yep.
And our draft picks failed.
Yeah, we're in agreement on that. Well, maybe not failed, but didn't live up to the expectations.
Well, I mean, Amari Rodgers failed.
Amari Rodgers failed.
Yeah. Jay Sternberg failed.
Jay Sternberger did fail. EQ St. Brown. Who was the one guy that just... Jamon Moore.
Yeah. Like, there's more there. There isn't a, you need to build foundation. I would think I would be severely disappointed if the Packers aren't significantly better at like 2 spots before they even hit the draft.
I hope you're right. I'm losing faith.
Well, how can you lose faith? Nothing's happened.
That's fair.
You can't lose faith.
Now this goes
you
back
call
to the
me
part
a
where I said I
doomsday
might have a
fan?
problem. Well, I said I might have a problem. I've been thinking about only this recently, right? And you said something earlier, Joshy, on like, well, you got to be the highest bidder for some of these guys. Is Goody going to be the highest bidder? Like corner is the position that actually concerns me the most because I love DJ Reed. Travarius Ward of the Niners could be fun. I don't think this would happen, but another reunion is possible. Rasul Douglas is a free agent this year. He's viewed as one of the top corners in free agency. He's older though, but you could go for a younger guy like Asante Samuel Jr. Could Goody open the checkbook for him just to lock down that corner position? And then you feel okay if Carrington Valentine's your number 2 and Keyshawn Nixon's playing the nickel. I wouldn't hate that, but is he willing to open the checkbook? It's the part I'm hung up on. But time will tell. You're right. I shouldn't be losing faith.
What is
You're
he?
right.
What is he saving money for in this situation?
That's where the names like Zach Tom come up.
Right, but let's look at this realistically. Zach Tom would be an extension. You would probably be able to move money around, front load much of that contract, and make it not a big deal. Like the $40 million in cap space is effectively as good as $100 million for the Packers.
It is. So I agree with that. But in terms of teams they're competing against, there's still 13 teams ahead of you with more cap space. You're 14th in the league as it stands right now.
Right, but teams aren't spending cap space just because they can spend it. They're spending it on guys they think would bring back value for the contract they got. Like, not every guy can be the top earning guy in free agency.
No, I agree with you on that. But there's only a select list, specifically at these 3 positions, of guys that would be worth it for Green Bay. Because you don't want to stunt the growth of say, Carrington Valentine. You don't want to stunt the growth of, say, a Dontayvion Wicks. Right? So I don't think you're going out there and spending bonkos dollars on a 5-year deal and just saying, okay, we were wrong about the receiver position, right? T. Higgins is the answer now. And, when Christian Watson gets back, those will be our 2. And we'll just continue to draft and develop behind those guys for the next 5 years. Because that's just not the approach I see them taking. But could they, in theory, sign a corner that's, let's say the 6th best available? Could they sign an edge rusher that nobody's ever heard of who, was on a fine team and the 2nd most productive guy? Yeah, maybe. But does that make you go, yeah, they fixed that? And again, I don't know that we can judge it until the season begins.
You've already hatched your eggs as it's going to be disappointing. It's very clear.
It's the first time anybody said it out loud like that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much where I'm at. I think we're going to be disappointed about it.
Not a single person has even been able to talk about being signed in free agency.
Well, legally, they haven't been able to.
And you're already disappointed that your free agency wasn't good enough.
That seems like a good time to move on.
Also, to be fair,
We'll get back
Jason
to,
Wilde did bring it up on Wilde and Tausch. He specifically called you out this morning for already being negative about free agency before it's even come close to starting. So you got called out all across the state.
Good for me. That's how you know you've made it right there. I didn't know
Or you're
that.
an idiot.
Thanks for, well, two things can be true. It's certainly more the idiot part, though. That's true. Okay. Well, I asked Jason yesterday. I just said, like, I just don't think it's realistic they're going to go Devontae, Myles Garrett, and DJ Reed. Like, that's just, it's not going to happen. He said, yeah, no, probably not. Okay, well, we can run it back with one of these positions, sure. If we run back receiver, if we run back corner, or if we run back all three of them and just hope for development. But that doesn't signal this is a team that's in their Super Bowl window to me.
I think you should kiss anything away from corner. You get depth. Guy in the draft.
I'm fine with approaching that one through the draft, but you better upgrade edge then.
Yeah, I would. How do you watch what you saw out of that edge and go, yep, let's run it back, baby?
I just said you have to upgrade edge.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, I think the Packers know that. I think they know.
Well,
they know one, Rashawn Gary was a mistake.
Or do they go, hey, we have a first round pick from 2 years ago that's totally untapped in Lucas Van Ness?
I mean, he didn't have a true pass rush win.
I get that.
He didn't go out there and beat the guy in front of him at all.
I get that, but year three, Joshy.
No, I don't think they're shrewd evaluators. They're looking at it objectively. They might not be saying it publicly, but if our eyes see it, the scouts and player personnel see it. And they let it leak out a little bit. We would like to see more production. Jeff Hafley said it. Brian Gutekunst said it. Matt LaFleur said it. Eventually, at the end of the season. But that position is amongst the weakest that the Packers have.
Oh, I agree. I mean, we're all in agreement on that.
And what do the Packers love?
Well,
Guys up front.
Yes.
And they suck at it.
They're really bad at it.
Really bad.
But they have been for how long?
Not that long.
Who am I missing?
I mean, Rashawn was fine.
Rashawn was fine. Defensively only, I'm speaking of, by the way.
Yeah.
Rashawn was fine, but then he got paid and fell off.
Preston Smith was making plays up until like 2 years ago.
He's a free agent. Should we bring him back?
No.
I'm joking. Yeah, I mean, like you have your Mike Daniels, BJ Raji. Like you had some fine pieces in there. But I don't know that you ever really had I mean, Matthews was one.
Yeah.
But, and Gary was good. We say that all the time. Show me his double-digit sack season.
It's never been.
Exactly. So I think they could get to, and maybe I'm just completely wrong about this, and I hope I am. But I wouldn't be shocked if in their building they're going, well, we're paying Gary this much. We have a first-round pick invested in this guy and this guy. We're paying this guy so much, Kenny Clark, right? Yada, yada, yada. The investment's there. Where's, we can't go and get the top-paid defensive end in
We call
in
that the sunk cost fallacy.
The sunken cost fallacy.
No, don't add that EN there. Sunk cost fallacy.
Okay.
That somehow because you've already bid something that you should stay there and keep investing in it when it's obviously just move on.
Yeah, but you can't really move on from Rashawn.
No, I'm not saying move on, but like you can't just be like, well, we paid for that, so we're good to go. You just keep adding money to it. You fix it. You don't go, well, spent too much there. Let's look at corner now.
I hope you're right. All right, got a ton of quick hitters to get through here as we wrap up our Monday edition. Good to have you back, Joshy. You made me feel like an idiot, but I think it was worth it.
Job well done.
Yeah, that's how you know you're doing your job. That's what was missed last week, I'll tell you what. Accountability goes way down around here when you're not here.
Hunter, come on.
There's only so much I can do for Madison. So
That's fair.
Yeah, it's a two-person job, frankly. If not more. Badgers, huge win Saturday at Mackey, taking down number 7 Purdue. The Badgers move up to number 11 in the AP poll this week. They have essentially solidified their spot in the NCAA tournament with that win. I mean, they are completely different than they were a year ago. They have completely reinvented themselves. They can shoot the 3 ball. They're scoring points. And they welcome Illinois to the Kohl Center tomorrow. I don't know if you'll be able to see this on the video stream. It just says, "This is my sign." I want people to do this at the Kohl Center tomorrow and hold it upside down.
Why?
Did you see Terrence Shannon Jr.'s jersey was retired by Illinois over the weekend, Joshy?
I did see that.
And it was released upside down. So I think people should just come with big signs and hold them upside down at the Kohl Center or tomorrow, excuse me. I think that would be fun. Badgers are really good, though. I mean, this is a really good basketball team. Marquette's kind of in flux right now. I still think they're very good and posed for a good March Madness run.
ha!
Come on.
I believe
Good
in
March Madness run. When was the last time they did that?
Well, they made the Sweet
Literally
16
last year,
They can improve
but-
on that.
Oh, cute.
No, you might want to look at what Hunter's wearing before you.
What
pick
were
this
they
argument.
ranked going into that? Was 16th, so they made it to as far as they should have gone?
At least they made it out of the first night
Or were
of the
they better than
tournament.
that? Oh, now we're doing Sweet 16s? We're hanging banners?
Literally, if I go walk down to the Kohl Center right now, there is a banner of the number of Sweet 16s that Wisconsin basketball has made. Like, what are you talking
And how many
about
of those
right now?
have they had in the time that the
No, but
the
you just
Marquettes
said
had their
Sweet
past
16s
two?
don't matter.
Oh,
So,
okay.
no, you don't get to use the number then after you just said they don't matter. Josh, come on. You're better than that. If you say they
I
don't
get
matter,
to
then
use
they don't
whatever I
matter.
want.
Then what are
You fell into my trap.
You fell into my trap. Regardless, I think there are 2 very good teams in the state. And
One,
there's 2.
the V word.
The V word. Very.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a good team. There's 2 good teams.
Yes.
There's actually 3 good teams. I mean, Milwaukee's not half bad either.
Jesus.
There's 2 good teams in the state.
there's a very good team
One
and a
might be
mid
very
team.
good.
Let's be real.
Whoa. I was going to give you the G word even.
No, Marquette's mid.
See, this is this doomsday coming up.
Yeah.
No,
They're still very good.
The second,
they're
they,
still
the
good. They're still
second
good.
they struggle, they start
I
shooting
gotta be
threes and
careful,
think
huh?
that's going to fix it.
All right. Wisconsin, we're all in agreement. Very good.
Yes.
Okay, Greg Gard, masterful job. Should be if not the finalist, or a finalist, the winner of Coach of the Year of the country. Bruce Pearl at
Yeah.
Auburn's got a very good case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to argue.
But Greg Gard should be right in that conversation, given all he had to go through this offseason.
I think he will be.
I do too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just so incredibly impressed by the way they've reinvented themselves. I mean, this is a team that is shooting the 3 ball at a very high clip, but also shooting a lot of threes, something Wisconsin had not done. Connor Essegian stopped playing last year because he was shooting threes, right? Like, this is a complete reinvention, 180 over the course of the last 2 years. And then they're getting to the line, and they are the best free throw shooting team in the country, which is fundamental basketball, baby. Love to see that. As for Marquette, slipping a little bit, losing some offense. To Hunter's point, when they panic, the 3 ball starts going out. Shout out Ben Gold. But they've still got one of the best players in the country. And that, at the end of the day, trumps a lot for me in college basketball. If you have an experienced guard who can take over games, you put yourself in most games. And that, of course, is Cam Jones. Now, the problem Marquette has is also a problem Wisconsin has. They don't have a dominant big. And teams that will have solid big guys can beat both of these teams. Now, for Purdue, for example, for so many years with Zach Edey, they had a dominant big guy. They didn't on Saturday, despite having a really, really good backcourt. And Purdue is still a really good basketball team. Wisconsin took advantage of that, the fact they didn't have a big, and John Tonje just took over that game at some points. So that's where we're at on the Badgers. They are really good. Marquette, they're in a funk, but I think they are also really good. Like, I think this is two teams, once again, for the first time since like 2012, 2013, that we will see both of them in the second weekend. I think it is very likely. Now, we got 3 weeks and 6 days until Selection Sunday, so my opinion is subject to change. But that's where I'm at still.
This Marquette team feels like lose first game to a game everybody was looking past. That's what they feel like to me right now.
The Badgers of last year?
No, because I don't think I think this Marquette team is far better than the Badgers of last year. Yeah. Everyone knew the Badgers could lose last year. That was we had all factored that in.
I mean, James Madison was the sexy upset pick the first weekend. So
I have a feeling Marquette might get hit with the Akron first-round matchup, and that's become already a team that people are posting about being an upset team. Like, that's just – it's going to be – I think they're going to get a bad matchup, like the Murray State one a few years ago.
See, I would have appreciated if you said Murray State, because I got to tell you something. I saw Akron live and in person this year. True story.
Everything ends up you bragging.
This is not a brag.
You're Akron bragging.
This is not a brag. I'm just saying, I saw this Akron team in person. They played against Milwaukee at Fiserv Forum over the holidays. They did like their tip-off battle. There was maybe 300 people there. I mean, it was empty in Fiserv. But I was sitting in the corner. We were the only 3 people in our section. Akron is not very good. Despite the fact they're winning conference games now, they're not very good. Milwaukee wrecked them. And I think Milwaukee's solid, but they wrecked them. They took care of business, and it was a sloppy-ass basketball. I think Akron turned the ball over like 35 times. And Milwaukee, again, good defensive team. But anyway, so just you could have picked any team in the country out there.
Great.
You picked one of 5 I've seen in person this year.
I literally just saw a post about how Akron, like how well they're playing and their efficiency right now. Like, that's why they're being talked about already as a upset team. So they were just stuck in my head.
I don't buy it.
If we're going to talk college basketball, we got to pour one out.
We're getting to that and what we learned. Just hang on to it before we pour one out, okay? Just hang on to it for a moment. Real quick, want to get to this. Courtney Cronin, ESPN, Chicago Bears reporter for NFL Nation, floating this idea on ESPN Radio. I just want a 30-second Josh reaction. We'll get to what we learned. Here's Courtney Cronin on ESPN Radio.
Is he finally at the point of self-actualization to realize maybe my best role is to bring on the next generation? Because he wouldn't do it with Jordan Love. What about a place like Chicago? Nobody wants to watch what we saw with the Jets the last 2 seasons, especially this year. Nobody wants to watch mid-Aaron Rodgers as a starter. I want to watch Aaron Rodgers in the quarterback room developing the next great Aaron Rodgers.
So, like, 3 problems with that before we get to Josh. Number 1, he helped Jordan Love. I don't think it's fair to say he didn't help him. Brett Favre didn't help Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers was great to Jordan Love.
Yes.
Number 2, he's not at the point of self-realization where he's going to be a backup. That's just not happening. There's 0% chance. He'd retire instead. Joshy, floor is yours.
There's no amount of ayahuasca that will get him to that either. I heard them talking about something similar on Unsportsmanlike with Chris Canty saying that he wouldn't be like that shocked to see him as backup. Aaron Rodgers ain't coming back to be a backup. He ain't going to training camp. He ain't doing all that crap to be somebody's backup. He's going to be somebody's starter, and he wants to be on a team that he thinks can win a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers doesn't respect Chicago as a franchise. Just simply doesn't. Aaron Rodgers doesn't hate the Packers. He hates Brian Gutekunst. He wouldn't go to Chicago to do it. I think he could find himself in Minnesota if the starting job was open. But he's more likely to be a New Orleans Saint than he is a backup for the Chicago Bears.
Take it even a step further. He's more likely to be a Tennessee Titan than the Bears backup.
Yes. What?
He will go play for the worst team in the NFL before he's back.
I know it's silly season. It's the off season. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. I'm with you. It's silly
Caleb
season.
Williams is deserving of his respect?
No, he doesn't. Well, no. 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 Maybe deserving of his respect isn't the right way to phrase it, but I hear you. He's not deserving of being his backup. I mean, he definitely doesn't think that. He doesn't think, oh, well, this guy's the future. I'm going to sit behind him. And he's also a USC cat. Aaron's a Cal cat. I don't know if there's any ill will there.
Yeah. It's not happening.
All right. You learn something new every day. We learned something new this weekend. It's time now for what we learned. And today we are doing an in memoriam. Today we remember the longest losing streak in all of college basketball this season. Not 5, not 10, not 15, not 20, but 21 straight games were dropped by the Green Bay Fighting Phoenix. Yesterday up at the Kohl Center, or the Crest Center rather, in Green Bay, Doug Gottlieb and the Fighting Gottliebs took care of business against Wright State. A double-digit win for Green Bay. Now 3-24? 3-24 on the season, I think the record is now. Because they're 2-1, yeah. No, 3-24 now. The losing streak is over for Green Bay and Doug Gottlieb.
I want to say this now. Me and Wright State, blood feud, rest of our lives.
Oh, really?
I hate him forever.
This will make you. Once again, I don't know how we fell into another one. I used to work at Lids, the hat store.
What?
I used to work at Lids, the hat store, and I had this thing where they did a certain line of college hats, and they were just like flying off the website. They were $5. They made them really cheap at one point. So I bought like 20 random college hats. I have a Wright State snapback for you if you'd like it.
We should burn it.
I mean, if you want to do that, we can. It's in my mother's basement in northeast Wisconsin. So next time I head up that way, I will dig up the Wright State hat and I will bring it to you.
I hope their basketball team gets disbanded.
I don't think that's going to happen.
It should.
But hey, we just got to give it up to our guy Dougie. He said nobody's going to want to see us come March. It is February 16th yesterday, February 17th today.
So far, no one is Wright State.
Could you say he was right?
No, I couldn't.
Stop.
Right with a W, you know what I'm saying?
Stop.
I'm saying? He was right. I mean, look, I'm happy for Doug. I'm happy for the Green Bay kids. Losing sucks. I mean, it's just as simple as that, right? Losing sucks. So to see Green Bay finally get one on the board for the first time since before Thanksgiving, it's good to see. Does that mean anything has changed? No. They're still not very good. I mean, for most people, the ruling is in that Doug Gottlieb is not it. I think in this landscape of college basketball, let's see what they look like by Christmas of next year. And if they are as bad as they were this year, you could probably pull the plug on it. Give them a full offseason, and then I will say it was wrong. I mean, it's certainly...
How many off seasons for him would it be a full one, seen as he has another job?
Hey, see what you did there. I'm more alluding to the fact that he got hired when? The end of May? I mean, he got hired right around Memorial Day. That's just way too late. So, give him the extra month and a half, 2 months, or whatever
you could have given him a 5-year head start. It doesn't matter.
We will see. He's got
another job.
Off the schneid, don't look now. What if they're just getting hot, Joshy?
I look forward to their secondary streak that they're going to start here soon.
Well, they've got a couple days off, but they play Friday at Robert Morris, who's 20-8. Green Bay again, 3-24. Robert Morris 20-8, and then they go to Youngstown State on Sunday, who's 18-10. But then they return home next Thursday to host 8-19 Detroit Mercy. So they might get 2 wins in 4 games there.
Whoa,
at least. And then they end the season with Oakland, who's in third last place.
The team you just said they might get a win in has almost 300% more wins. That's how bad we are. That an 8-win team is beating the brakes off the Phoenix.
That's true. Yeah, well, there you have it. So, R.I.P. to the longest losing streak in the country.
Sad. We used to be a real country, have nice things. And Dougie Gottlieb went and got a win on us.
Unbelievable. Josh, you were really hoping they just lost out, huh?
I wanted him to lose every game for the rest of his life. That's what I wanted.
Well, I got bad news. I mean, unless you want to start the streak now.
We're going streaking.
Do you think this next streak, it would have to bleed into next season?
Yeah.
Over, under. Let's go over, under. They have 6 games left, I think, in the regular season, maybe 5. So let's go over, under 5.5 more games. 5.5 losing streak. beginning with their next game. 5.5 games. Do they win one in those 5.5, or does this losing streak trickle into next season?
They probably end up getting one.
Joshy's
probably one more.
Joshy's a Gottlieb-er. Heard it here first. Gottlieb or Joshy DiMaggio. That will do it for us today on this Monday. I'm not even going to give him the opportunity to dispute it. Joshy the Gottlieb-er. Gottlieb-er. He's got the Gottlieb fever. Gottlieb. I don't know. I tried. We're back with you Wednesday beginning at 12:30 Central. ESPN Madison. ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. Lieber Fever. That's it. Remember to get Mr. Irrelevant, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, with you 3 times a week, including all sorts of specialties, little bonus episodes on the Apple Podcast, Spotify feed. So make sure you subscribe there if you haven't already. Appreciate you hanging out with us. More Packers talk to come later in the week. We will talk to you then. Peace.